Good evening, everyone. My name is James Manganiello. I am the logistics manager for District 119 for 2022-2023. And tonight we're going to Zoom training, and this is going to be level 2. This is really important because this is contest training. Now, we got contest season coming up twice a year. And what we're going to be learning today is going to be applying to all levels of contest, not just club contests, but area, division, district. Because what you learn in this applies to everything. Now, I'm going to be real specific. I got a little bit of a presentation. We're going to go through that. I apologize if I talk a little bit fast, but I'll try to be slow. It's not always the easiest thing in the world. So here we go. In level 1 training, let me share my screen. In level 1 of the Zoom training, what we specifically did was we talked about creating an account. We went through that. And then there's settings that are specific to your camera and microphone, which we went through as well. Now, the one thing we also talked about was joining a meeting. Since you're here, you joined a meeting, which is good. One of the other settings we talked about is chat. Now, if you look on the bottom of your scroll bar, you have a button that says chat. We talked about how you can chat. In addition, we also talked about renaming yourself, which is done by actually clicking on those 3 dots above your name. We also talked about pinning, which is something that looks like a little pin by your name. Now, I'm not going to go through the level 1 training again because that's all been recorded and posted on the District 119 page on the bottom. And this way you could access it. Now, in the level 1 training, what we did was we learned to crawl. And just like everybody who was a child, when we were growing up, you got to learn how to crawl before you can walk. Now, today, we're in level 2. Where is that? Yeah, level 2 Zoom training. This is contest training. This applies to all levels of contest. Now, just to be clear, I'm not discussing the specifics on a contestant role and a functionary role. You could go to the Toastmasters International speech contest rulebook on that because they will be more specific on what each role can do. Today, we're going to learn how to walk. I mean, yeah, you get off the computer, you stand up, you walk over to another part of the house. You know how to do that. But we're talking about in the Zoom stuff. What we're specifically talking about today is the Zoom Master, which is what I am today, your Zoom Master. Your Zoom Master is your MC. They control everything that happens during your contest level. So a Zoom Master will be the person letting people into the meeting. For me, I have a theater background. A Zoom Master is essentially your stage manager or the person behind the scenes to make the Zoom meeting run smoothly. Now, another way to look at it, the Zoom Master is also your bouncer who watches the house as well as the waiting room. And I think we've all run into the situation where we've been Zoom bombed or there've been people that are coming to a meeting we don't know. So what the Zoom Master will do is they will know who comes into the meeting, who will be a participant, a functionary, or a guest. Now, who is the Zoom Master? The Zoom Master is basically a Toastmaster. Someone who they don't have to be the host to be the meeting, but it's essential that they are because the host account holder should be present in the Zoom meeting, especially when you're doing a contest, because the contest will run longer than your traditional 45-minute meeting. Now, what a host can do, or the account holder can turn the hosting privileges over to someone else, which is what Mel did for me tonight. He's the account holder, so he turned it over to me to be the host or the Zoom Master. Now, who can be a Zoom Master? Anybody. Anybody who understands how to use the functionalities of Zoom and navigate people accordingly along with managing the different situations can be a Zoom Master. So yes, you can be a Zoom Master. Now, there's a prep meeting before every contest. We all know this. A couple of days before your contest, you got a prep meeting. What happens in the prep meeting? The contest chair and the chief judge are there, and the Zoom Master shows up, and the Zoom Master will create breakout rooms specifically for the contestants and functionaries. So the chief judge and the contest chair will brief them on the specifics of the meeting. Now, the Zoom Master should have a list of the players, who's who, who's doing what, and then you will assign them to the rooms accordingly. Now, at the appropriate time, the contest chair will instruct the Zoom Master, open the breakout rooms, and boom, everybody's going to get moved over. Now they will, before they're moved over to in the program itself, they will be moved, but they will receive a prompt on the middle of their screen that says, you will be moved to a breakout room, click join. Now, when you click join, you're removed from the main room and put into the breakout room, specifically either for your contestant or your functionary, and then you're briefed accordingly. Now, on the day of the contest, prior to the start time, of course, the host joins the meeting, followed by the Zoom master. The Zoom master will create the breakout rooms. This is essential because this way, as functionaries arrive, they get moved to the breakout room. As contestants arrive, they move to the breakout room. Now, what's really important is the Zoom master must have that agenda because they need to know who the players are, who's who. And this way they know who the contestants and functionaries are. So, oh, Bob is here. He's a functionary. He's got to go to the functionary room. Now, in the functionary room, Mike, in the contestant room, excuse me, the sergeant at arms is in there. Now, that's explained through the contest rule book. I'm not going to go through that. But the most important thing to do is to keep the participant window open. And the way you do that, on the bottom, there's a button that says participant. You hit that. You got to see who's coming in. Who joins in? Are they a contestant? Are they a functionary? Make sure you assign them to the room appropriately. Now, your chat. This is a big one during the contest. Before the contest starts, the Zoom master will make sure the chat is enabled. So this way people come in and say, hey, Nicole, how you doing? Hey, Mel, how's it going? Just chit chat, or you can private chat. Hey, did you see that thing on the news the other night? You can do that. That's fine. But once that start time hits, 7 o'clock, or whatever the start time is, boom, chat is disabled because you cannot have any disruptions because the purpose of the contest is for the contestants. That's why we're here. So the Zoom master would disable the chat for all participants. However, you should keep the chat open specifically for the host and co-hosts to communicate, because that's the best way, other than us picking up the phone and say, hey, could you make sure that they actually have that breakout rooms done, or do you have a problem? You want to make sure that it's a constant communication with the host and co-hosts. But once the contest is moved to the interviews, it's important to enable the chat because this is how you acknowledge the people. That was a really good speech, or I didn't know that about you, but we'll get to that. Now, the Zoom master primary functions. You're the bouncer. You got to watch the house. You got to keep an eye on the participants. Make sure they have the cameras and microphones off at the beginning. Why? Because we're dealing with Wi-Fi. And you got to preserve the bandwidth. That's very important. We've said this in many contests. Please make sure that your microphones and cameras are off unless you are a participant. And I've seen many times where I've gone through it and I've had to actually turn off cameras, turn off microphones. And when you do that as a Zoom master, you disable whether or not the person can and can't do it. So when the Zoom master mutes everyone and turns off your camera, as a participant, you can't do it. The Zoom master has to enable the person to do it. Now, after the first contest, whether usually it's table topics, you got to delete the breakout rooms. That's a big one for one reason. If you don't delete the breakout rooms, and I've had this happen, this was embarrassing. The Zoom master, once you assign people to the breakout rooms accordingly, you move everybody back, delete the breakout rooms. If you reopen them, everybody's going to go back. And that happened to me in the very first contest I worked. And I was the only one sitting there. And I'm looking at it like, oh, where'd everybody go? And you could send a broadcast message, everybody come back. It's embarrassing. So don't do that. The rules. Now, when it comes to the contest rules, the contest chair and the chief judge will read the rules. That's what they're here for. They make sure everybody understands what you need to do. Now, at the appropriate time, the contest chair will mention the timer. It's important that you spotlight the contest chair on one side and the timer on the other, because as the contest chair explains everything, the timer is going to do it. Basically, what I'm saying is, if the contest chair is going to say, now when the contestant is speaking and it reached the 5-minute mark, the timer will change the background slide to green. They'll do that. So as the contest chair reaches the specific timing rules, the timer executes it and changes the backgrounds accordingly. You guys know that from the rule book. Now, how do you spotlight? A participant can't do it. The Zoom master must do it, or a co-host could do it. You click on participants, you choose a person's name, you right-click it, you choose spotlight. So what that does, it showcases that specific person. So that's who everybody sees. The video is going to take up the entire screen. Now to add a second person, you click the person's name and right-click it and choose spotlight. What happens is you get a side-by-side video, which is important. Now, after spotlighting that specific person, you move back to that person's name and you choose remove spotlight. This is helpful, especially when you're doing the interviews in the second half of the contest. So this way, it's a seamless transition from contestant A to contestant B, and that interviewer is there. Now, this is a real important one of spotlight versus pin. Spotlight is specific to the host and the co-host. Pin, anybody could pin. Now, when you're a contestant and you're about to speak, you pin the timer. That's the easiest way for you to know where you stand in your speech. How much time have I got left? By having the, Mel, could you let them in, please? I got it. By actually being able to pin somebody, what happens is, like for a contestant, when you pin the timer, you know where you stand as far as your time. The contest chair will ask the question, and then when the timer is pinned, it gives you a chance to know when that when that screen changes, okay, I have this much time. Now, as Zoom master, you just want to make sure that if they're pinned, they have it pinned. When you're spotlighting, it's different. But you got to remember, when you're pinning someone, it's specific to your computer. Everybody's going to see who's ever on the main screen, but when you're pinning somebody, you're only going to see that one person. Now, spotlight's different because it affects everybody. Because when you spotlight one person and the second person, that's what everybody sees. We went through that at the leadership event. When we actually had the main camera showcasing the person who was speaking, that was spotlighting them. But when we actually, like when Don Ramard was giving a presentation, he said, I'm going to show the presentation. So we had Don on one side of the screen, and his presentation on the other. And he said, change next slide, please. So you would actually see what his next slide would be while Don would be explaining it. And that actually happened in person too, when you had the video screen. So you see both. And the advantage to it is when you're doing a presentation like that, it actually explains the information you're trying to say. Not exactly like what I'm doing here, but you understand the concept to it. Let's see where it is. Right. Now, when the contest begins, the contestants are moved to the breakout room with the sergeant at arms. Sergeant at arms instructs the first contestant to move to the main room. You know all this stuff from basically from the TI manual. Contest chair introduces the first contestant. Then after the first contestant, you got the minute of silence. Zoom master contacts the sergeant at arms, get the next contestant ready. That's very important because in that minute of silence, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that you guys don't know about. So Zoom master is contacting the sergeant at arms, get that next contestant ready. They will leave the breakout room, go to the main room. You got to remember, choose the blue button. It's like the Matrix. Choose the blue pill, not the red pill. You choose the blue button that says leave breakout room. If you hit the red button, you leave the meeting. And then you got to come back, and that's a little bit problematic. So choose the blue button that says leave breakout room. You'll go back to the main room. I'll see you as Zoom master, see you come back in. We'll go through the same principles, like make sure you have the timer pinned, et cetera, et cetera. Now, once the last contestant is competed, you need 2 minutes of silence. We go through that. In the 2 minutes, everybody stays muted. Now, for the speech contest, all contestants are in the same room. Same principles apply. You still have the minute of silence in between each contestant, and after the last contestant, you got 2 minutes. You guys know all this. Now, throughout the contest, we're going to go into Zoom Master a little bit. Your main function as Zoom Master is making sure everybody's microphone is muted and the camera is off to preserve bandwidth, whether you're on your cell phone, your tablet, whether you're in a shared place, whether you have a hardwired connection. Bandwidth is an issue, so we want to preserve as much as we can. So microphones and cameras off, because this way, who's ever speaking, that's who you see. Now, as a Zoom master, you got to watch the waiting room. Now, Anyone can arrive during that 30-minute window before contest. Sure, let them in, look at your list, see who's who, move them appropriately. Now, when someone arrives during a contestant speech, and this will happen, don't let them in. You don't want to let them in while the contestant is speaking, because a contestant could be recorded. It could disrupt their flow of speech. Now, it's also important to Zoom Master, what you can do is they will see the waiting room up on top. You could send a message to them saying, and this is what I do, I say, a contestant is currently speaking. We will let you in during the minute of silence. It's an acknowledgement to let them know, I see you, give me a minute. Now, once you let them in, please make sure that they have muted their microphone and turned off their camera. That's very important. Now, interruptions is going to happen. The Zoom Master is going to watch the house and be prepared for any interruptions and respond accordingly. I'll give you an example. I worked a contest back in October. During the minute of silence, I let somebody in. I wasn't watching whether or not they had their camera and microphone muted on or off. I didn't check that because I was watching the time. It was 45 seconds in. So it was almost time for the next contestant to speak. This was the speech portion of it. So I made sure the contestant was ready. They had their timer pinned. Everything was ready to go. Now they started speaking. They were introduced by the contest chair, name, speech title, name, same as protocol. They started speaking. That person that was not muted and had their microphone on, the contestant started speaking, good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and they got about 8 seconds into it. The other person started speaking. Here's what happens. Camera switches over to them, and so does the microphone. And when that happened, all I thought was, oh my God. I went right to my participants list, mute, turn off the camera. And then when I switched the view switched back to the speaker, they were frozen for about 5 seconds because they didn't expect it. I'll be honest, I was really embarrassed, but you got to be prepared for the unexpected. So before you actually introduce that speaker, check your participant list. Is everybody muted? All those cameras off? Because this can happen. You got to watch out for safeguards like this. Now, recording. This is a big one for Zoom Masters. If a contestant specifically requests prior to contest, I'd like to be recorded. Okay, it is the Zoom Master's responsibility to record them. Now you got to remember, record to the cloud. Cloud's going to be online. That records to the account host's cloud account. It's very important. Now, as a Zoom Master, remind the contest chair, give me about a 2-second pause before introducing the contestant to start the recording. So it's usually a good time frame because, okay, you make sure the sergeant at arms will make sure the contestant has their microphone on and the camera on. So when they come into the main room, they're ready to rock and roll. So contest chair will see them, give it a 2-second pause. I'll start the recording as Zoom Master. When you hear recording has started, Zoom Master, the contest chair will say, name, speech title, name. They will withdraw and they will turn off their camera and their microphone. The contestant will start. When it's done, they will refer to it. This is just protocol. Contestant will say, Mr. Contest Chair or Madam Contest Chair, turning it back to the contest chair. Once that's said, boom, stop the recording. Recording has stopped. Now the interviews. This is big, but this goes in the same context as spotlighting because you spotlight the interviewer. So it's going to take up your full screen. It's going to be the only person you see. Now, when the interviewer has the name. Okay, Mr. Melvin Garlic. What's going to happen is you're going to call who you want to be interviewed. That's who you spotlight next. Move your mouse over to the name, hit the triple dots, spotlight. So the interviewer and interview will be spotlighting these side by side. Still, also watch the participants, Zoom Master, because you got to make sure nobody's turned on their microphone or the camera because this is their time to shine. Right? You want to make sure you give them that time to do it. So the interviewer will say, thank you. Look through the paper and call up the next person. Harry and Aziris, right? When they call that name, make sure the Zoom master, you're spotlighting that person. So boom, the first person will disappear, second person will pop up. And you go through that with each interviewee. You spotlight them. It's basically their time to shine. Next, I'm going to just show you this really quickly because the level 3 training is going to be hybrid. Hybrid is always a combination of two things. You're thinking of a hybrid car, what is it? Gas and electric. You think of a hybrid meeting. What is it a combination of? In-person and online Zoom. Now we're going to be doing the hybrid training in February 15th, yes, the day after Valentine's Day. I'm teaching it. Now, what we're going to be doing for that, we're reviewing levels 1 and 2, which is your basics and your contest. Now, this is a preparation because what we want to be able to do is we're going to go through the roles that will be done in Zoom and in person because it's so easy to duplicate stuff, but we'll get to that there. The most important thing about this is teamwork. You'll run into challenges and it'll be Q&A and we'll have the link to register. Now, the thing to it is you can visit this link. You go to the District 119 page to register for it. Once you register, you'll get a confirmation email containing information about joining the meeting. Now, I want to do something. Let's show you what this looks like in real time. I need 2 volunteers. Don't be shy. It's okay. You can raise your hand. You can turn on your camera and your microphone. I encourage it right now. Actually, let's do that.
I'll volunteer.
Okay. I want everybody for this one. I'm going to take you up on that, Lisa. Okay. Everybody unmute. Everybody unmute real quick. All right. Now, here's what I'm going to show you that you could do with Zoom Master. You have the functionary controls, but I'm going to do this purposely. I'm going to have it recorded. On the count of 3, I'm going to actually ask you to say your name, what club you're with, and how long you're with the Toastmaster. Now, I'm going to count down from 5 because what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute you and show what the Zoom Master can do. On the count of 3, 3, 2, 1, talk.
Helen.
Tamika Powell.
Orator.
All right. That was just a showcase from the Zoom Master point of view. You could unmute everybody and you can mute everybody. It's done purposely. Now, the thing to it is when you mute everybody, remember, you got to give them permission to unmute again. So if there's an issue that someone can't unmute, yeah, help them out. Move to the breakout room if you need to. One thing I'd recommend is if you got a second device like a tablet and you could sign in, yeah, use that tablet on the side, move that over to the breakout room. So this way you could help facilitate if you need to. And if you don't have a tablet, use your cell phone. Because when it comes down to this meeting, it's about showcasing the speakers. I'm just a guy behind the scenes trying to make things work. Now, the one thing I am going to ask is I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers. Bev, I'm going to count on you for this one because you've been Zoom Master for a bunch of stuff. So let's see who we can get. Joe, Bev, since you're co-host, I want you to walk through what you see. So this way, when everybody sees it, they'll see what you're talking about. So spotlight Joe and spotlight Nicole. Joe and Nicole, I'm going to unmute you both. So hang on. Joe, you should just get the prompt to unmute. Nicole, you should get a prompt to unmute. Okay, guys, talk for a minute. This is the way it should look when you're actually in the interviews, right? Or you're actually going to be spotlighting when the chief judge is talking, oh, this is the timer. And what I want you to do is I want you to actually indicate your colors. Nicole, change your background real quick. So when the contest chair actually says, change your background, so this way you have show the green. And this way they showcase the green, which is important. Then they'll showcase the yellow. This way the people in the audience and the participants know, okay, this is what I need to see when they actually saying, okay, oh, I'm at 5 minutes. Okay, Oh, I got 6 minutes. I got less than a minute to go. So you got to be really conscious of it. And it's important because as a speaker, you're aware of where you stand. And that's important because as speakers, sometimes we can go over. We do. I'm a talker. I'm one to know with that. So it's really important. And thank you. You guys you could unspotlight them. Now that's spotlighting. What's really important about spotlighting, it's showcasing the individual, which is really important. Now, pinning is different, which I did indicate. Now, the thing about is when you're a Zoom master, you got to watch your participants. So in the participant window, when you pop it up on the right, it'll show everybody, which is important. Let's make somebody else who hasn't done this yet. Who can I volunteer? Would anybody like to volunteer to try to be Zoom master and do something? Okay, Karen. Let's make Karen a co-host. Mel, would you be able to make Karen a co-host? Because I'm doing this purposely to be recorded. Here's why. Karen, we're going to make you a co-host, and I'm going to walk you through what I'd like you to do, if that's okay. When we get there. Bev, are you still sharing your screen?
I shouldn't be, no.
Okay, no.
What are you trying to do?
Let's make Karen a co-host for the moment, because Karen, let's let you to do the breakout rooms. You know how to set them up, of course, right? Oh, she's got to unmute.
She said no.
Okay.
No, I do not. In fact, that was one of my questions so far. How do we create breakout rooms?
Okay. From the host co-host, the menu bottom is going to be a little different from what you see as participants. As participants, you're just going to see the participant list. You can chat, you can mute, unmute, you can rename yourself. But when you're a functionary, you see more. Look at the bottom. You got participants, you got chat, you could share your screen, you have recording, you also have breakout rooms, you have reactions, which is the smiley and everything.
So James, can I
Yes.
ask you a question?
Yes.
So that box, that's you in the middle where it says create a breakout room?
When you Bev, that was yours, right?
Yeah,
that was
so
Bev. Okay.
what I can do, I'm going to show my screen, share my screen so you can see in real time how to create a breakout room. And so,
as you share it, I'm going to walk you through it. You know how to do it. So on the bottom, there's a little box, 4 boxes. It says breakout rooms. So when you click that, how many would you need to create? In a contest level, I would always do 3. 1 for the contestants, 1 for the functionaries, 1 for the war room. Because you need, if there's something that's going to happen, everybody's got to go somewhere. And the thing is, I would always choose manually for one reason. If you choose automatically, anybody could be moved anywhere at any time. So it's a little more complicated. So when you hit create, it makes the breakout rooms. A little box should pop up. Now from here, you could rename them. You could call one contestant. You could use the next one functionary. Third one, you could call war room, which is important because when you have contestants arrive, oh, you click that button that says assign. So she'll get there. I'll show you. And this is just renamed as war room, right? And this is good for the Zoom master because you know, okay, this is who's going to be where. Click on assign for contestants. Let's move somebody.
so I want to, before you go to that, I'm going to show the options.
Okay.
So with the options, you click on options and you always want to check just these 2, allow participants to return to the main session at any time and automatically move all assigned participants into the breakout rooms. And it's going to be a little different from what James explained earlier. The reason why I do this, whenever I open the breakout room, everyone will be moved. You don't have to hit that button, join the breakout room. So you'll be moved automatically regardless. And there's no need to do anything else. Just these are important at other times, but don't worry about those. I just wanted to share that. And as far as assigning, you're going to
You can
click.
pick anybody.
You say, I'm just going to say Don is a contestant, so I'll click on Don. Joseph is a contestant. I'm going to assign to the functionary room. Whatever room you're assigning them to, just hit assign and just select their names. And you will know that because you have the list of who needs to go where. So those are the only people that I'm going to assign at this time.
And watch the main screen before we you open it up, because what's going to happen is the moment she hits open rooms, because it's an automatic move, you're going to see the 4 of us
They're
disappear.
going to disappear. So I'm going to open the room now. And so they're gone. And you know they're there because you see the green dots next to their names. Don, Joseph, James, and Nicole. Yes, Teresa?
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure you guys are assigning participants as they come in the room. So this way,
Right.
when we get to this point for the contest, it's already taken.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm going to close the room and they're going to come back automatically. When I hit close all rooms, they will come back. And I think they came back before I closed the rooms. Okay, and now this is the part that James was saying. After you close those rooms, you want to delete the rooms. So I want to delete contestant room. I'm going to hover over contestants, hit delete. Yes. Functionary room, hit delete. Yes. Same thing here. We didn't need it, so we're still going to delete it. And so now we've gone through the contestants. We want to set up for the judges and the functionaries, the ballot counters. So I'll stop this again. I'll start it again. So you're going to hit add room and just rename it. I just put ballot counters. All right. And the same thing is going to be the chief judge. It's going to be ballot counter 1, ballot counter 2, ballot counter 3. So they're all assigned. And when the time comes, I'm going to open up the room. They're going to automatically go in and they're going to bring themselves back when it's time, because the Zoom master doesn't know when they're going to be finished counting the ballots. Now, let's say I don't want to send anyone now. I'm just going to uncheck them. Uncheck, uncheck, uncheck. So we don't have to worry about anybody moving into that room by mistake. And let me see anything else. I think that's it. Are there any questions about that?
I'd like to make a point.
Yeah, yes, Don.
You made a really good point earlier about you set these breakout rooms for the briefings ahead of time and you assign people. And that bit about automatically moving them, many people don't know how to use Zoom.
Right.
And we spend a lot of time during the contest and stuff saying, push this button, click this, da, da, da. So for those of you who have to do this and be organizers, taking those steps to do things like that automatically is important.
And then one other thing I want to share with that, Don, thank you for sharing that. Let's say, for instance, I'm going to put Nicole, I'm going to put you back in there. You're a little familiar. And Pam. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you in, but I'm going to bring you out individually. You don't have to do anything. And I'll show everyone here how that's done. So I'm going to open the room. You're going to go. So they're in that room. So now I want to move Pam back into the main room. So I'm going to hover over Pam. I'm going to hit move to main room. So Pam should pop up in a few seconds. And sometimes some of the contestants may take a little bit longer than others. So now Pam is back. Now I'm going to hover over and I'm going to move Nicole back. So this way, as the Zoom master, you're in control you know when that 1 minute of silence is up and you want to bring the contestants back to the breakout room, into the main room. So you have that option to do that. And for the benefit, I'm going to close the room again. And I'm going to show it again because Pam didn't get to see it and Nicole didn't get to see it. So I'm going to delete the room again. So this is a repeat for everyone. I'm going to delete this room again. I'm going to add the room and I'm going to assign Cecil. Don, I think you got it. So I'll assign you and I will assign Nicole. Oh, I don't want to do Nicole again. Joseph. So I'm going to assign you. And so Pam and Nicole, because you were in the breakout room, I just wanted to show this again so you can see how it's done. So everyone, you know that they're in the breakout room because you see the green dots. They're in room number 5. You're going to hit move to main room. That's Don. You'll see Don come back. Then I'm going to move Joseph. Okay, I think Joseph brought himself back. Okay, here he is. He's still there. Hi, Don. Welcome back.
Welcome back. There's one thing you can do when you're
Mhm.
co-host, which I think is really beneficial. When the breakout rooms are set, I mean, if you're Zoom master, the thing is when you want to check on everybody, or if you actually have to get a message over, yeah, just go down to the room and you could hit join. Because if you actually have to go over and just relay a message from what you hear here, and you got to let the contestants know and say, hey guys, we're going to be at another 2 more minutes. Just bear with us. We'll let you know. And they'll give you a thumbs up and then you can just jump back into the main room. The thing about the Zoom master that's really important, you are the integral communication between everybody, between the contestants, between the functionaries. And if there's a situation, you could move back and forth. And if need be, you could just hit Control B or whatever it be instead of broadcast message, please join the main room or whatever it may be.
Okay, so what James was just explaining, the way that you would join the meeting, you'll see join next to the room. You click on join, and when I say yes, I will disappear and I'll go into that room, and then I'll bring myself back. And with regards to, I'm not going to go there. With regards to the broadcast, you click on broadcast and you send a message. Return to main room, whatever your message is. And when you hit broadcast,
Goes to
then
everybody.
everyone will be able to see it. Now, one thing that I want to, I'm going to close this room again, for everyone to keep in mind, delete the room. There are going to be some people who you will not be able to move. And it may be because they're on a tablet or whatever the case may be. If that's the case, then you let them know ahead of time that you're going to send a broadcast message and then they will move themselves. Does that make sense? Lisa, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I think you just answered it. Thank you so much, Beverly, because you had said that Joe brought himself back in, and that was the question I was going to ask. How does someone do that?
Right. And I made a mistake in saying that. I scrolled down so he was hid. So he didn't bring himself back, but they will bring themselves back the same way that you would always bring yourself back from a breakout room. Does everyone know how to come back from a breakout room?
I think that's the question. Basically, a pop-up shows up on your screen, says join, return. So you just click on it.
And no, it wouldn't be like that. As far as, say, for instance, Lisa, I put you in the breakout room. When it's time for you to come back, you will hit leave, and then it will be breakout room.
Well, that's different than when you tell me to come back.
Right.
There's different ways to do it. One, you do it yourself. One was when you tell me to come back.
Okay,
I saw a message that said join the main room again.
So in the event, I'm sorry, so in the event that you're a ballot counter, they will wait on you, that you come back on your own.
Right.
They wouldn't go get you. So when the ballots are finished, the ballot counters would just come back. So in that scenario, they will come back on their own.
Okay, so it has to be a deliberate action, and no one would be just randomly coming back in. They have to deliberately bring themselves back in. That's
right.
what I want
Yes.
to
So
make sure.
you'll be in the breakout room, and say, for instance, like I was just explaining, I'm not, as the Zoom master, able to bring you back the way I just showed you, will move to the main room. If I'm not able to do that, I will send a broadcast message. And let me just create this again. So I'm just going to put one person. So I will send the broadcast message. Cecil, let's let him go in there. Sorry, Cecil. And I will send a message saying Cecil return, right? And once Cecil sees that message, then he's going to hit leave room, leave breakout room, and it's going to bring him back here. As opposed to me going ahead and hit move to main room.
Thank
Right?
you.
So he will have to do it himself in the event the Zoom master is not able to do so and the broadcast message has come out. And it has to be explained to the contestants and the sergeant at arms at the beginning of the meeting. In the event that I cannot do it, then you'll get the broadcast message and that person will move themselves.
One thing to note as Zoom Master, what you may get a notification from the contest chair to remove the co-host from someone else. And you can do that, but always clear it in case there was a contest I worked and I'm not going to say which one, but I was informed by the chief judge, please remove the co-host privileges from this particular person. So I did what I needed to do and I removed it.
Okay, so I'm going to show that. So the only co-host, let me show you how you know who the co-hosts are. So when you look at our names, you see I'm a co-host, Mel is the host, and James is a co-host, and Karen. So I'm going to remove Karen's co-host privileges. I'm going to click on her, and I can't do it because I'm not the host. Whoever the host is going to do that. So you always want to make sure that when you're the Zoom master, that you are made the co-host. You are made the host, and then you assign all of the other co-hosts. So the host is the only one who can remove or change that. Okay.
And how do you get to the screen that shows how you create the breakout rooms?
Mel, can you make me the host and I'll make you the co-host?
You can see it right now. It's on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, but I just want to be able to do that for other purposes as well. And
Joseph, when you're a participant, you're limited with your functionality on the bottom. Will say
Right.
security, participants, chat, share screen, reactions, and app. But when you become either a host or co-host, you see all those buttons at the bottom where you have pause and like recording, share
Right.
options, breakout rooms.
Okay.
So when you become a host and co-host, there's more functionalities, more responsibilities you essentially have.
Right. Okay.
okay, so I'm making Mel a co-host now. And the easy way to do this is, I know Mel is listed as District 119. If I hit just D in the search bar right here, he's going to come up to the top and I will make him a co-host. I'm going to confirm it, yes. And at this point, I can remove co-host privileges from Karen. And same thing, I'll just hit, you could do it above their heads or from the participant view. So I will remove co-host permissions at this point.
Okay.
And as far as the question that you had, Joseph, where do you find that? The host and the co-host will only be the only ones who will be able to see the breakout rooms. So it will be always at the bottom. So I'm going to close all of these rooms. I'm going to delete them again so that nothing happens. Okay. And as far as what James was saying with regards to muting and unmuting people, the only people who can unmute themselves are the host and the co-host. So in order to mute everyone, right now, I'm just going to hit mute all, and that says yes. And the other thing you want to do is uncheck allow participants to unmute themselves. Remove that check, because once you do, then no one will be able to do it.
Right.
And whenever you're ready, you can put it back. So right now, okay, can anyone unmute themselves? Just shake your head, no?
I
Okay.
can, but that's different.
Yes, because James is a co-host and Mel is one. So now I want to give you those privileges back. So what I'm going to do is allow participants to unmute themselves. I'm going to hit the check mark. And at this point, everyone, you should be able to unmute yourself. Can we check it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Check.
And the best way to prevent anyone who joins the meeting from you hearing them or becoming unmuted, and I will show you here. You're going to hit participants again, the 3 dots. You are going to always have this check, mute participants upon entry. Mute participants upon entry. That means no one can unmute themselves because they will be already in that capacity. They will already be muted. So you
But
don't have
wanna-
to, yeah, you don't have to go scrounging around trying to mute a person who didn't come in muted already.
But I'd still check it, because sometimes people just come in and they keep their cameras on and microphones on. And in a contest level, that's a disruption to a speaker. So
Got
you
it.
always try to cover all your bases, because when it comes down to if something's recorded, it could be dicey. So you want to safeguard as much as you can. And just knowing the key to this is the awareness of knowing everything that could possibly happen. So this way, when you see it happen, oh, I know what to do. It's
Right.
just that, and that's experience. We all go through that. I mean, that's the good thing about Zoom. Because we're constantly learning and it's constantly changing, we're constantly adapting. But the good thing about this is we can teach it, we can implement it, and we can share it. So everybody in the club can know how to do this. Basically,
And-
everybody can know, and the district can know how to do this.
And to go with what you just said, if someone comes in and everyone has already been muted, then you don't have to worry about it. So you've already muted all because the contest has already started.
Right.
And this is already checked, so you're good. Now,
Bev,
what? Yes.
Could you do me a favor?
Mhm.
Go down to the chat. Let them see exactly how the chat's enabled and re-enabled, right?
Okay.
So
I'm going to talk it through. You're going to click on chat, and the 3 dots. The 3 dots are your friends. And anything you click on, 3 dots, you want to find out what's happening. Whenever we say that the chat has been disabled, that means we have changed it from everyone being able to chat to just the host and the co-host. They're the only ones. When the contest is over, we enable the chat by changing it to everyone and anyone directly, which means just that everyone can chat and you can chat privately. I would refrain from hitting no one can chat, because that means that the host and co-host will not be able to communicate with themselves, and we need to be able to do that at all times. So the only things that you need to concern yourself with is host and co-host this can chat only. That means it's disabled, and when the time comes, we're going to change it back to everyone and anyone directly. Okay. What else?
does
Are there
anybody
any?
have,
Yeah.
does anybody have any specific questions that's not related to those, what we've discussed so far?
Yes. When I go back, say in a few days to look over this, all the screens with all the different roles and all that we started at the beginning, I can go very slowly through them and make notes or read them very slowly. They're not going to be at as fast as you were talking.
I could share my presentation. That's easy to do. because by sharing that, this way everybody has access to all the information. And as you're watching the video, you don't just hear me, you see the presentation along as well. So this way it's more of a detail. And then when you get to the certain points that Beverly's explaining it, you're seeing it in real time in addition to just reading an explanation. Will that help?
Right. Okay.
Will that help, Joe?
Yes.
John,
You know me, James. With time, it'll come.
Yes, and Joseph, because it's going to be a YouTube video, you can slow down the speed on YouTube. You can
Right.
fast forward,
So-
rewind, so you can learn
So-
it at your own pace.
So tonight's presentation will go to YouTube.
when
Yes,
this is
it's
uploaded, we'll be
Wonderful, that
going
would be
to
great.
Yes, it will go to YouTube and it will be made available on the district website.
District
So
1.
you
Okay,
can
yes.
access it at any time.
So we're going to be given the link because most links of YouTube are such, how can I say, a mixture of numbers and letters and.
Well, the
But-
good thing is on
But the district
page, it
has
was
its
embedded.
own YouTube site, and when you go on the website, it'll take you directly there. So it's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
search-
It's embedded in the page. So when
Right.
you click the link, it goes directly to the YouTube.
Wait,
And I-
wait a minute. When you click the page on the training, it'll go directly to YouTube?
On the District 119 page, when we had the first Zoom training, there's it says to access the first level 1 Zoom training, click here. That will take you to the YouTube page. Once this video is completed, it's going to say the same thing. To access the level 2 Zoom training, click here. And
Okay.
it'll go to the video where this is located.
And you will also be able to see, if you go to YouTube at District 119 Toastmasters page, YouTube channel, you'll be able to see level 1 and level 2 once level 2 is up, and then level 3. So if you missed it for level 1, you can go there and see it there as well.
Okay.
And
And
it's a good reference because I'm referencing stuff from level 1. And if you're just catching up in level 2 and you're like, what is he talking about with pin, or was he talking about with join? And you could just go back to level 1 to see the part it's referring to. So it's a good reference tool. That's why I did it. I tried to have what was taught in level 1 integrated into level 2. So if I mentioned something that you're not sure, you can still go back to the level 1 to find it.
one thing that I want to point out to everyone, if you turn someone's video off as the Zoom master, they will not be able to turn that video on without your prompt. So let's say, Nicole, I am stopping your video, right? Can you turn your video on now, Nicole? You can unmute yourself and say so.
I cannot.
Okay, so as a Zoom master, I would not make a habit of doing that, because if you go through and you turn everyone's videos off at the end of the meeting, when everyone wants to turn their videos on, you would have to click, and I'm going to show you how here, Nicole, and ask to start video. You would have to do that for everyone who you turned their video off. So my suggestion would be to put in the chat, everyone, please turn your video off. If people refuse to do it, you just send them a private chat, letting them know that if you don't do it, I will turn it off, and you will not be able to turn your video on without assistance. And that's why a lot of times at the end of meetings, and we get all these people, I can't turn my video off because someone, a co-host, has turned it off. So please, if you can refrain from doing it, don't do it. The other, and I think the last thought that I had that everyone should know, if a contestant is competing, do not spotlight them, because if you do spotlight them, they will not be able to pin the timer. The spotlight overrides the pin.
Wait a minute.
Right. Let me see if I can.
Turn the spotlight. So,
Yeah.
so really, if the host spotlights someone, then the pin cannot override it.
Right. Right. So I have you spotlighted now. So
So
see
I
if you can pin the timer. Let's say Joseph is the timer.
Okay.
I've got my desktop screen. I can't see anybody.
So let me ask you, so when the contestant is speaking, how can we make sure that the others by default are going to see the contestant unless they pin somebody else?
Okay, everyone, if you want to see the contestant, suggest that everyone watch them in speaker view.
Mhm.
The contestant is always going to be in speaker view. You do not want to spotlight them because it will hinder their ability to pin the timer. Let me go here, and if you want to go back to gallery, feel free to do so.
But
And
remember, when you change the view,
Lisa has her hand.
I'm sorry,
yeah, I think it's been up the whole time.
Lisa, did you have a question?
No, I think
Okay.
that was from before. Sorry, thank you.
So,
okay.
so because Lisa still has her hand up, I'll just show you how to lower her hand. Just click on Lisa and hit lower hand, and it goes away.
Oh, the other note too is when someone does raise their hand, if you notice, what happens is they get moved to the top. So where Mel's position is right now on the top left, when you raise your hand, it gets moved up to the top. One tip we did doing contests, we actually were able to have the timer with their hand raised, so they were always up in the top corner. So when someone says, "Could you pin the timer?" Which one is it? It's the one with the hand raised.
So the hand doesn't go down unless
unless
you
you
take it
prompt it.
off?
No, you
Oh.
tell it to. So
Oh.
I'm going to raise my hand right now. I'm raising my hand.
So,
And she moved
Now
over.
I'm going to lower my hand.
so when do you spotlight someone?
We want to spotlight the contest chair whenever they're speaking.
Okay.
So I'm going to spotlight for everyone. And what James was talking about with the timer. So Pam, you are the contest chair right now, or the chief judge. I'm going to make you the contest chair. And Mel, you are going to be the timer. So I'm going to add the spotlight so that while Pam is telling us the rules about the timing, then Mel is showing us the timing device, the cards. Once she's finished with Mel, I'm going to remove from spotlight. And I'm going to remove Pam because there's no need for her to be spotlighted anymore. And the other time is during the interviews, during the contest.
Same rules apply. You spotlight the one person, and then you add the spotlight for the other person. But in the interviews, you got to remember, you cannot unspotlight the interviewer until that last interviewee is done. So you keep that main spotlight on the interviewer. So if Naz is the first interviewee, right? So you spotlight Naz, and then from there, you say, okay, thank you, Naz. And then after Naz said, next we have Melvin Garlic. So it would unspotlight Naz, and then as Zoom master, I would spotlight Mel. So this is the easiest transition to go from the one interviewee to the next. And it's easier. It looks more like an interview for a TV show. So you're going from the host and say, let's go over to George. George, what are you up to today? And then you go to have the communication. Thank you, George. Let's see who's up for next. Let's see. Lisa, what are you doing today? And it just goes from one person to the other. That's the advantage, because when you're the interviewee, you have that little transition. It's like, okay, next we're going to go to Don Ramard. What have you got going on today? And then the thing is, when the interviewer tells you who it is, that's the trigger for the Zoom master. Oh, where is he? And you find where they are, and then you just spotlight them.
And the other thing you need to know, if the video is not on, you cannot spotlight them. Aletta, she doesn't have it on. I can't spotlight her. So you want to remind the contestants to be ready with their video on during the spotlights, during the interview section. And then there are going to be times when you're not going to be able to find them at all. So my suggestion is to always be ready to hit participants and look for who it is that you want. I want Jolinda. So I'm going to start typing her name. And she's closed, but I just want to show you the importance of being able to find the person that you're looking for quickly. And again, I'm going to do it again and take Jolinda out. I'm going to put Nicole. Nicole, I found Nicole. I'm going to spotlight Nicole now. Okay. So this search bar is your friend if you want to find everything quickly, because you don't want to be scrolling through 100 people that's at a meeting, right? So I'm going to go Cecil. I'm just picking on Cecil a lot today. Let me see. Cecil, he's spotlighted.
You want to
Okay.
be in the water behind him.
Yeah, okay, so let's stop. I've stopped his
Oh.
video. Again,
Everybody's lusting after the water. I'm sorry, guys.
okay, I'm gonna ask him
So,
to turn it back on.
so you're clicking on participants on the bottom,
Yes,
and then you're just putting their name in, so
yes.
that you don't have to waste any time. So while the other person's talking, there's a lot of pressure. My goodness, I didn't realize all this went on behind the scenes here.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
that's
the
why
How
that
do we practice?
the
How do we practice?
preliminary work is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you get that listing from the chief judge and the contest chair, letting you know who are the contestants, who are the functionaries. You have everything in place before you even get onto the meeting. And as soon as everyone starts coming in, you assign them to the breakout rooms. Assign, open it, throw them in there, let them do what they have to do, close it, bring them out. So it's all about preliminary work that you have to make sure that you take care of.
Lisa, I'll give you a tip. This is going to be a real easy one. Everybody can take this one home. When you're doing table topics in your club, right? Because this will happen. What you can do is when you actually have the table topics master, spotlight them. And then the next person you spotlight is your timer. Because when you spotlight the timer, this way the contestant knows how much time they got in their table topics. So when you say, hey, Harry, let's go for you run table topics. Guess what? You actually spotlight Harry. And when you spotlight Harry, I'm like, okay, great job, Harry. You unspotlight Harry, timer resets, you call out the next person. Pam, you spotlight Pam. And this way it's a seamless transition. So when you're doing that, it's like you showcase one person, showcase the next person, just like in the interview. You're just constantly moving it, because as Zoom master, this is a constant moving machine. So you just want to make sure that when people are actually showcased, you showcase the right person at the right time. Because as Zoom master, you got to be watching everything. That's the most important thing about it. Because when you're a participant and you're watching it and everything runs seamless, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that you don't know about. But the advantage to it is knowing everything when you're going into it and being aware of it. Anybody in this district could be a Zoom master, because once you learn this, you take this back to your club. Because think about it, every club's going to be doing table topics. How cool is it when you could actually showcase someone saying, hey, let's actually showcase this person and give them that one moment time to shine.
But wait a second. Beverly said if you showcase the speaker, they can't pin the timer.
Right.
But if you showcase the timer in table topics, you showcase this table topics person and the timer and then the speaker, they won't
So
have
that
to
works
do
for
anything.
you and me. But what's the experience for the speaker?
Oh,
They'll see the timer right on the screen.
Can you repeat that again, James?
If during table topics, let's do this real time.
Mhm.
So
Mel,
what
if you
James
gotta
is
jump right, you
saying
can make
is
moves.
you showcase the timer and the speaker. And that
Right.
works for everybody else. We see both of them. But you said earlier, then the speaker may not see the timer. They
Right.
can't pin them.
They won't be able to pin. So what happens is you don't really want to get in the habit of pinning the person and the timer, because it will interfere with the focus. So let's say Addison is the speaker. So I'm paying attention to Addison and the timer. And the judges should not see what's going on with the timing, because that should not be factoring into their decisions when they're judging. So you don't want to do that during a contest, and especially during international contests. And I don't even recommend it during a club meeting.
You know what? It's even more important than that. In the rules, it says the timer shouldn't be visible to
Right.
the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't be spotlighting the timer in virtual contests.
Right.
But the speaker needs to know how to pin them.
How do I see that? How would I see the timer then if I'm speaking?
If you're a speaker, you have to pin the timer. I mean, they might be on your gallery view and you might see them, but you saw how the gallery view moves around. So you pin them and then they'll always be visible to you.
Okay, that's like I guess we need to explain and show that to everyone.
Yeah.
I'd like to add a point here, though. This is really great that you guys are doing this and showing it, but it's a lot of information for the people who have not done it.
Mhm.
There is a tutorial that you can download from Toastmasters International on the best practice guidelines for running a virtual contest and explains all of this. So you really should look at that document, and then some of this will come into focus a little bit better for you.
Okay, and one thing that people are doing now, instead of pinning the timer, is to have the timer raise their hand. So Nicole, can you raise your hand? Okay, so Nicole has raised her hand, and I am going to spotlight. I can spotlight myself. I'm going to spotlight Helen. Spotlight for everyone. So Helen, can you see Nicole? She's at the top right-hand side of your screen.
Yes.
Or, right? So to avoid pinning the timer, we could this could be best practice as far as moving forward, because as long as the timer is at the top of the screen, the speaker will always be able to see the timer. And you can change, yes, so she's changing. Can you see it, Helen?
Yes,
You can see the changes?
yes,
Now-
but like I see the image is right in front of my face. If I wanted to.
Okay, not a problem.
Which I
Mhm.
usually don't put them online.
And I'm showing my screen so everyone can see it, so it'll be a different experience. So now, as long as Nicole is there, the timer is there, we don't have to worry about should we spotlight in time and pin, because right now you're spotlighted and you're the speaker. Now try to pin the timer. You know that Nicole is the timer. See if you're going to be able to do it.
Oh,
Right?
Yeah.
You can't do it. And that's the problem that happens whenever you spotlight the speaker.
Now, I really like that, Valerie, because a lot of people join the contest and stuff, and they don't know how to use Zoom. And we spend a lot of time trying to explain to people, go here, click this, click that. They don't know how to find those three little dots, which is basically a menu.
Right.
So that raising hand thing, your timer knows how to do it because they've been briefed ahead of time. And they just raise the hand, then they stay in that top corner until they lower the hand.
It's also really important because I can't tell you how many TLI sessions I've done that people don't rename themselves. It's a constant thing because in the first 10 minutes of a TLI session, which is the training, I'll go through what role you're training for, what role you're training for. And I started putting in the chat, please rename yourself accordingly. And if there's people, and I actually put in the next message, if you need help, send me a message and I will help you. And I think that's important in the contest level too, because not everybody can be Zoom savvy and they'll say, I don't know how to rename. Let me know what you need and I'll help you. As Zoom master, that's what I take on because whatever makes it easier for everybody else, that's what's important.
And for those who don't know how to pin the timer, I'll just go quickly. You can do it both ways. You can click on participant and you can click on Nicole because you know she's the timer, and just go ahead and hit pin, right? And when it's time to remove her, you hit remove pin. Then the other way is to just go to her dots, hit pin, and she will be pinned. You're going to be removing her. Just out the way.
Even though you're adding and removing her, it doesn't matter that the hand up is still in the upper left corner?
No, not for this demonstration purposes. I'm just demonstrating how to pin a timer. So let's say, for instance, there are times when people will say, well, I can't pin the timer, right? Because you might not see the screen that I have here. I am now in speaker view. I went from gallery and I'm not in speaker. So if you can't pin the timer from here, like we just did, just know that you can pin the timer by going into participants and start typing her name. You don't have to type the whole thing. Once you see the person's name, just click on it, and then, so there are more than one way to get the job done.
Right.
Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen, and I am going to go back into gallery view.
Does anybody have any other questions?
I just have one logistical question.
Sure.
Beverly, you were saying when we were setting things up that when we're setting up the ballot counter breakout room, we don't do that at the very beginning. We do that after everybody has spoken, and then they'll have to have the ballot counters go in there. Is that
correct? To make life easy for yourself, you can very well do that, but that's just too much work and too much to be concerning yourself with it all at once. And that's why it's important that you just delete the rooms. After you close the room, delete, and then you just start, you create the new room, the ballot counter room, and just assign them. And most of the time, I will do that ahead of time. So after all of the contestants are done, I know, okay, we're going to send the ballot counters in and the chief judge. So I'll just set it up. But again, something might happen and the trio might decide, or someone might say, we need to go into the war room. So that means that the people that I have assigned, I'm going to have to get them out of here, right? And start, and it's so quick. You may think it's a lot of work, but it goes by so quickly that it just makes life easier. So if you have to take people out, just uncheck them and then create the rooms again and assign the people. And the way that you assign them to is to just go straight into this. And for the contestants, you want to have them say international speaker, rename themselves international speaker number 1, 2, 3. And so do whatever you have to do to make your life easier. And once you have them assigned, all you have to do is check, 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 check. They're assigned, and you have to open the door, and that's it.
Nicole, you had a question?
No, she's still the timer.
Did she raise her hand? Oh, it's so.
There's always something
to say.
I have something to add.
Yes.
So all this is great how-to, but I think some people are struggling with when do you create breakout rooms and when do you not?
Got it.
And so typically, first thing we do as a contest is the briefings, unless you do them the night before. So that's where you set the 3 rooms they were talking about. One for contestants, one for functionaries, and a war room. Now, the contestants and the contest chair go into the contestants room, the chief judge and the functionaries go into theirs. When they're done, the briefing part of the meeting is done. So that's when everybody comes back to the main room, and that's when, as the Zoom master, you have to delete those rooms, close them out, and then recreate the functionary room. So that when the speakers are all done, and now it's time for voting, chief judge and ballot counters go into that functionary room again. And you always have the war room available. So you've got to constantly create rooms and delete them, because first contest I didn't delete them, and things get screwy. So just points in the meeting, you're going to have to create rooms and delete them and assign people and such.
That's the important thing about the Zoom master. You have to do this behind the scenes while everything is going on in the foreground, while the contest chair is explaining the rules to everybody and then spotlighting the timer and explaining everything. You got to actually have your window open. You got to delete the breakout rooms. You got to recreate the breakout rooms, make sure the names are set. And you may have maybe like 2 minutes to do it, but you got to do all this stuff silently behind the scenes so nobody knows about it. So this way, when it comes time where everybody's got to move, it's seamless. That's the key.
It's nice to have 2 people at least, so you can help each other out.
One of the point I would bring up, and if you read the online best practices for hybrid and online contests, they said that we should have more than one Zoom master and break up the tasks. So, you have one main Zoom master and you will have someone who just takes care of the breakout rooms and someone who just does the highlight. And so that's one thing that you would have to figure out who's going to have what role. So, and distinctly what role you're going to have and what you would have to do.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons for the training, so everyone could come in, and when you have a contest, someone can play one of the roles there. It's not just one person doing it. Most of the time, it's not just one Zoom master.
Right. And
That was the people, go ahead, Beth.
the important thing is whoever the host is, the primary Zoom master, they should be the only ones handling the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
And as far as the other things, spotlighting, then the other co-host can do it.
But when you go to a bigger venue and you're dealing with more moving parts, like we did with the leadership event, I specifically asked for 7 Zoom masters because everybody takes a different aspect. You split the responsibilities, basically. When I was in person, I made sure we had a camera, so I was taking care of the camera and my laptop was set. So this way, if someone was actually doing a presentation, someone would do that. Another Zoom master was managing the chat. Another person was making sure people were muted. So by actually splitting the responsibilities, the event ran smoother. But I know at a contest level, you can't always do that. But when you go to another level, it's important to split.
And I just want to respond to Nicole. If you want to ask your question with regards to renaming.
You ended up covering that. The only piece that did get added to my notes here is earlier and throughout this meeting, this is highly beneficial for everyone here and those who will listen to it later, is about when a contest starts and you're actually seeing people in a quote unquote waiting room, that has to be set up before the meeting starts. That's part of settings. In order to see like the waiting room that was mentioned earlier, like seeing who's who before they arrive in the meeting, that needs to be set up before.
Okay.
I believe that's done in the Zoom settings before you even start the meeting, correct?
Yeah, it's automatic. Let's see, let me share my screen again.
That's automatic if you enable it.
Right,
Correct.
so that's where we hit here and enable waiting room. So if it's not checked, then you're not going to be able to see it. The other thing too, we want to always turn this play the sound when someone joins or leaves the meeting. Uncheck that because that dinging sign.
Turn that off.
Yeah. So if you could take a screenshot of this, what's on the screen right now, these are the things that you want to have checked and unchecked at all times. For a meeting, we always want to hide our profile pictures so that no one will know who the judges are. So right now, let me turn it. Oh shoot. Okay, let me. Nicole, can you turn your video off? And Harry. So what I did, I hid everybody. Okay, so now if I turn this back on, then you're going to see everyone's profile picture. So you see it now. So you want to make a habit of just turning everyone's profile pictures off. So
I
this
don't
way-
have one, so I don't have to worry.
Okay. So you want to keep that hid. So the thing is, if you could just make note of these things here that needs to be checked. That's it.
That's really good, Nicole. Mel and I have both mentioned it. There are online guides that go into some real detail, but seeing it live, what you guys are presenting is really helpful.
You gotta remember too, when you actually, if you do choose to look at the Zoom training that they actually offer, it's a little different. Some of the basics are the same, but when you look at some of the other stuff they're doing, may not exactly apply to Toastmasters. You gotta remember, it's like, even though it's a lot of information, what are you gonna use when it comes down to it? For us, it's about pinning, spotlighting, renaming, making sure your settings are set up. Those are the basic functionalities, not just for a club, but for a contest as well.
All right, but James, we're not talking about Zoom training. We're talking about Toastmasters International training on how to use Zoom for contests.
Correct.
That's what Mel and I are referencing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
Just a
other
reminder,
questions?
just a quick reminder, we're gonna put the date for the third level Zoom training, which is hybrid. That's gonna be on Wednesday, February 16th. No,
15th.
15th. I already have a flyer for that. I'll send that over to you, Mel. And that's going to be a lot of moving parts. I'll give you a heads up on that. But there's the one thing you'll learn from the Zoom Master training, that's going to carry over to 3, but 3 is going to be a lot more details. But I'm going to show you some stuff that from the leadership event of stuff that was really important, because there's things that I mentioned here that's going to come into play, but a lot of things to watch out for. But what you learn here is going to carry over to everything else. So this is really good. I really thank you guys for doing this. And Bev, thank you so much for stepping up. And same with you, Don,
Right.
because
Yeah.
the more we learn as Toastmasters, we bring this back to our clubs. And remember the
Right.
slogan for Toastmasters, Toastmasters is where leaders are made. Believe it or not, being Zoom Masters is how you become a leader as well, because you take that back to your club and you help them grow as leaders too.
I just want to add one thing before we adjourn.
Hmm.
You have to keep in mind that we're having evaluation contests. That means that a separate breakout room has to be created for the evaluators. So just keep that in mind, that once you have the beginning part where the judges and the functionaries are being briefed, then you're going to close out that meeting. You're going to set up the next contest for the evaluators. Just keep that in mind.
And what I want to mention to you in closing, that we already scheduled contest training from a different, this is the Zoom aspect. So it's going to show you the format of the contest and all the elements we're going for the contest and dealing with it hybrid. So it's going to be very helpful, and it's going to match up to what you're learning here. So that's very important, and look out for that coming out. It's going to be February 6th, and we're going to start promoting it next week. We have 2 trainers for that, and it's going to be an excellent thing going forward. So we want to make the contest season very seamless for this second half of the year. And so we're providing everything that you would need to have a successful contest and moving forward. So if there are no more questions, is any more questions?
Yes.
If not, thank you, James. Thank you, Beverly, for stepping up and doing a wonderful job. This was very beneficial to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that said, I am going to adjourn this meeting for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.